This task, this written task called What Is It That Wasn't Said, is all about really cutting to the chase and really having the freedom to allow characters to say what it is that they really want to say to another character. So often characters say one thing but do another or mean another. So it's a great exercise to do when you've already got some characters in your story and you're trying to find out what actually is it that is going unsaid. What you can do is get yourself some pens and some paper, and you take yourself to a different place in the room so everybody's got their own space. Put some music on and give yourselves 5 minutes to just continuously write. If you get stuck and you don't know what to write, just continue writing, I don't know what to write, or not quite sure what to write here, or repeat your last word over and over again until the next train of thought comes. It will come, but try not to stop writing, because as soon as you stop writing, you start intellectualizing. And what we want is a practical task of writing. You're seeing somebody in a noisy place that you haven't seen for a while. Something needs to be said. Something has gone unsaid. You haven't seen them, I don't know for how long, but you really need to tell them what it is that you didn't get to tell them. So what they're doing now is they're going to spend 5 minutes swapping it around. So they are now writing from the other character's perspective. What is it that that other character needs to say or wants to say? They have the same freedom in that you can't hear them. There are no consequences. So what is it that has gone unsaid that now needs to get said? So you've written 2 pieces of writing now from 2 separate characters. What you're going to do is spend a couple of minutes reading over it, and with a highlighter or just the same pen, you're going to underline or highlight key bits that stand out to you. The final part of this at the moment is to now write out the bits that you've highlighted in some kind of dialogue. So one person speaking, followed by the other person speaking, followed by person A, followed by person B. You can repeat things. What you can't do is you can't add in new things, okay? So you're really looking at how does this raw text come together? If it does, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't at all. And what was really interesting was the group started to comment on, you know, I can't work out whether this is any good. I can't work out whether this is whether I hate it. And Maggie pointed out, you know, sometimes you need something to hate to then move in a different direction, which is lovely. And also focusing on bringing your mind back to what is the instruction that you've been given to write. So not trying to be clever with it, not trying to guess the end point, but just try and follow the instructions as they get given to you, bit by bit. Should we just read what we've got?
We don't run away from our problems.
I can't carry this anymore by myself.
You let emotion get in the way.
I've gone over and over the words you said. There is little room for the ambiguity you seek justification in.
You're so quick to jump to conclusions, you don't give me the benefit of the doubt.
I love you, of course I do, more than anything. But you were wrong.
Well, let's look at the facts.
You got it wrong and you hurt me.
No, now we can barely speak. I don't understand this.
You're just as fallible as the rest of us.
We can disagree.
You'll tell me not to be emotional, but I feel pain and you caused it.
I'm sorry.
It's fascinating because there were no restrictions, there were no consequences, and yet I still have no idea what hasn't been said.
Sometimes the hardest thing to say is to get the conversation to a point where the conversation can even happen. So starting it, sometimes the hardest thing is I've got something to tell you and you're not going to like it, can be harder sometimes than the actual thing it is that you want to say.
We spend a lot of time with each other is what I sort of get from it. It feels real. It feels like this could really happen. I often think when you try immediately to write a script, it's actually not what happens at all when people have conversations. It'd be sort of disjointed and people following their own trains of thoughts and not actually answering the question.
Someone said to me not long ago, you know, bad writing is when all the characters make sense of what each other have said. When they all understand and hear what each other have said, we're listening to respond. And we've got our own agenda of what we want to say. And so often what's being said to us isn't actually heard or responded to in terms of what has actually been said.
There's a Diet Coke with your name on it just sitting in the fridge. I think it's been there this whole time, you know.
You've no idea what we do you?
I really do, but it just doesn't matter anymore. I just don't care enough anymore. I miss you, you fucking bellend.
You are selfish. And there's nothing more abhorrent, is there, than a selfish person that shares your blood. What did I do to deserve that? To deserve to share your DNA? I either feel guilty for not having you around anymore, or I feel guilty for treating myself awfully for thinking of you. You look the same. I hate that.
That's it.
Whoa.
I just suddenly was like, this is tragic. It's like, oh, there's a Diet Coke with your name on it in the fridge. Just made me immediately go to, they've left, they're not coming back, and something so everyday becomes so massive. Like that Diet Coke is not going to get drunk.
Yeah.
That's just, every time you open the fridge, you're going to see that person, and you're going to close that fridge again.
Just the idea that something so everyday could have somebody's name on it and all of a sudden become huge. It's such an inconsequential product to just put out on the market, and then all of a sudden, when that person isn't there anymore, but the Coke can still is in somebody else's life, it just signifies absence.
I really wish
Mate,
I really wish you would just talk to me.
I need to tell you something.
You have to know that you can tell me anything, right?
Sorry,
I hate seeing you like this. I don't really know how to help you when you completely avoid talking about anything that is really, like, really happening.
It's Libby. Me and her, we had a moment. I'm sorry.
I was wondering whether you were actually this dialogue in that moment, were you practicing saying it? Was she actually in the room with you? Are they speaking over each other?
I had it really clear in my head that they were either in the living room or in a pub together, or they're in the same place, but they're both rehearsing to it, going, I've got to tell him, I've got to work out what's going on with this guy.
Kind of while we're reading these, images might flash up of are they actually speaking to each other? Are they in the room with each other now? Of how to stage them. Is it somebody else that we're seeing on stage and this dialogue is happening off stage? Who are these people that are talking, and who is the person that we're seeing or the audience is seeing? Because of course the people speaking don't have to be the people on stage.
You look good.
You're so different from how I remembered you.
You look good.
You took up every single molecule of space, and now you seem so small.
I heard you. Got married. I did too.
Almost sense your presence close by, hoping you were close to me or near to me all the time.
I remember us walking home and sitting on the wall outside Alice's house and chatting and laughing.
You're so ordinary.
Why did it go weird? Some rumour?
You were proper mean to me.
If I did anything to upset you, I didn't mean to.
My heart might have been a little bit broken by you.
Kids care a lot about what everyone else thinks and says.
You were horrible to me.
One person was actually speaking to the other, but the other was having an internal monologue and reaction to the things that they were hearing. So it wasn't like a two-way scene in that way. Because that's really nice, because then you can play a totally different reaction to the one that you're feeling inside. This is the last time I'm seeing you.
You chew too loudly.
I don't care.
I'm not mad at it. I'm mad at it. I'm fucking fuming.
You should have known what you done to me.
I wish you would spend more time with me.
I can't speak anymore.
Fuck you. But it's fine.
This area makes me nervous.
For me, it's like you're having this whole conversation, but neither of you are actually saying any of it until that last line when Maggie said, this area makes me nervous. And then all of a sudden it kind of, for me, it zoomed out into where you actually were, and you were there for something totally different. And for me, it was like now we're leaping off into like, where are they? What area, what situation are they in, and why is it making you nervous? And why are you there together? Why are you so fuming at this other person? What is that history there? We've read through all of the text and we've really thought about which bits are really springing out to us, which bits do we think have got some dramatic potential, and which bits are inspiring for us, which bits have some characters that are popping out to us that we'd like to explore a bit further. And we've split off into 2 different groups, and we're just going to see whether we can bring these words to the stage. I've given Upstairs group a physical task to see whether we've got any more potential with these words with some physical work. So let's see where we go. We're going to have a look at the 2 groups and the 2 different pieces of text that they've chosen to work on, and just see what were the physical opportunities, are there any other physical opportunities, where does the text drive the movement, where is the movement driving the text, and just see what we've come up with.
You look good.
You look very different from how I remembered you.
You look good.
You... oh. You took up every molecule of space. And now you seem so small.
Oh, heard you got married. Yeah, no, I did too.
Sometimes I feel you nearby, or hope that you're nearby. Close to me all the time.
No, I remember. Is walking and then sitting next to the wall on in Ali's house, and just chatting and laughing.
You're so ordinary.
Why did it get so weird? Oh, oh man, is that rumor?
You were proper mean to me.
Hey, if I did anything to hurt you, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to. I mean,
Yeah, you may have
kids
broke
say
my
things
heart
like
a
that
little
all
bit, but
the
you were
time.
really horrible to me.
You look good.
You just feel so awkward that you have to. You start the speech again. I love it. He's done it every time. But it, like, you know, if you're devising something from scratch, I think it's really lovely when the text gives you those things that are like, I have to go here. I don't know why, but we should. That's absolutely something you should talk about.
Yeah.
It's great.
Once we turn it into dialogue, you kind of make the presumption that they're talking to each other. It's 2 people on stage that are talking to each other, but actually just the decision to have Joe leave and walk around, for me, landed as if Joe wasn't actually a part of what Felipe was saying.
While one character's going on about I'm making small talk or just going down that memory lane, the other character is like, wait a minute, I can't comprehend this. This is you? Like, it's really nice, you know.
So possibly what you would see if it was from the other perspective, right, would just be that what you just did, man, just this like just everything going on up here, right, not actually listening to anything. Yeah, that is really nice.
We believed, without any lighting or anything, that for Felipe, Joe was still there. So I think focus is hugely important, and that's helped to sort of sell that.
There's something really interesting going on with Felipe's feet as well. You're kind of on the outside of your feet, and it kind of made me think, because all this time Joe's like circling you and holding your hand and wrapping your arm around her, but your feet were telling this whole other story of total awkwardness, and I just zoomed right in there. Like, what happens if we're only looking at, you know, Felipe's hands like clasped here around his arms and his feet going nuts while you're trying to make this small talk that is so awkward.
For me, it felt like the awkward one back then would have been Joe. Would have been like nervous and awkward around this person, and now she's just like totally content and knows herself and happy, and he's the one that's suddenly like, ah. So it's like completely shifted as well, who's got the power in that relationship.
We haven't really talked about the context of the whole piece, but all of a sudden it's getting really specific. Like, these people have known each other a long time, and we don't know who they are, we don't know how old they are, we don't know where they are, and all of these things are just automatically jumping out of the text or the movement and giving us places to go. It's really exciting.
Sometimes when we put movement on top of dialogue or words, it's too much. You're kind of smashing your audience over the head with words and dialogue, and you need to decide when to use the two together, when to use just the one, and which one is going to benefit the story. But let's just have a little look and see what we've got.
What we've decided to do is record the lines that are going to go over the top of this, just using our phone to begin with, so that we can play this in the rehearsal room while we're rehearsing the movement that we've got. Instead of having scripts in hand and trying to struggle with lines, we can just actually get to grips with it much faster. So we're going to record that now.
We don't run away from our problems.
I can't carry this anymore by myself.
You let emotions get in the way.
I've gone over and over the words you said. There's little room for the ambiguity. Let's do it again, sorry.
We don't run away from our problems.
I can't carry this anymore by myself.
You let emotion get in the way.
I've gone over and over the words you said. There's little room for the ambiguity you see justification.
You're so quick to judge conclusions. You don't give me the benefit of the doubt.
I love you. Of course I do. More than anything. But you were wrong.
Let's look at the facts.
You got it wrong and you hurt me.
Now we can barely speak. I don't understand this.
You're just as fallible as the rest of us.
We can disagree.
You tell me not to be emotional, but I feel pain, and you caused it.
There was something about the recorded nature of it that felt really wrong in terms of the performance. It felt too predetermined or something, like it was, this is the recording. And it for me, I was like, either we need to, it felt like the words needed to be said live.
Maybe it's about both the intensities matching, even though one's affectionate and one's aggressive. So maybe the recording at the moment is too casual in its nature.
Let's have Richard, you're going to try to do the squeeze duet, and Michelle, I think the instruction is that you cannot connect.
We don't run away from our problems.
I can't carry this anymore by myself.
You let emotion get in the way.
I've gone over and over the words you said. There's little room for the ambiguity you see justification in.
You're so quick to judge conclusions. You don't give me the benefit of the doubt.
I love you. Of course I do. More than anything. But you were wrong.
Let's look at the facts.
You got it wrong and you hurt me.
Now we can barely speak. I don't understand this.
You're just as fallible as the rest of us.
We can disagree.
You'll tell me not to be emotional, but I feel pain, and you caused it.
Michelle's points of contact were kind of functional. They were functional for the duet, and I wonder what would happen if we had more time, if we just took all of that away. And how does the duet carry on? How can it carry on if you can't connect, you can't do those connections?
First time I was sort of leaning into it, I still felt like I had some sort of, I was still invested. Whereas this time it felt like I was just being polite.
The next thing is, do you want that character to be polite after what's happened? Why do they feel like they need to be polite? Do you want to lean into that and turn that, now I feel like I need to be polite, up a bit? Or do you want to turn it right down in the sense that there's now nothing to lose for that character? And I suppose that's choices that you make when you're staging work. This group are doing 0 to 9 numbers on the body. They've got 10 different numbers, 0 is one of them, and they have to choose different points on their body that will represent those numbers. We're then going to take it to the wall and they're just going to move between. They'll have a sequence of numbers that they'll move between, and they'll just move their bodies in different shapes against a fixed point on that wall. If you want to see this practical task, then you can look back at the creating choreography. Michelle and Richard are going to create a sequence of movement in relation to the wall. That sequence of movement, they can touch the wall, but they're in relationship to the wall. There's something else on the other side of the wall, somebody else on the other side of the wall. It's 8 different moves in relation to the wall that they are facing. They can turn away from the wall, that might be one action. They can go to touch the wall, that might be another action. They might slide down the wall, maybe they'll listen. But 8 actions in relationship to a wall. 3 people are now going to do another generating task. I've called this positives and negatives. And what it is a task in saying what you could never say to another person. You're making it fiction. When you're writing, you're saying what you would never say to another person. 2 of them are going to have the task of making that positive, those things that you feel you can't say to other people that are positive. And one of them is going to have the task in the negative, and they're going to say the things to the other person that are negative, that they would never say.
I can't stand the way you stand, just the way you hold yourself. It's that arrogance, you know? Confidence without just cause. I never use the word hate, and you are the only thing in my life that makes me reevaluate that decision. Even the way you look at me makes me feel like nothing, like a piece of chewing gum on the bottom of your ugly, big-ass size 10s. Get a grip. Honestly, just take a look in the mirror and ask yourself, is this who I want to be? Because it takes energy to be a bad person. It takes energy, and how dare you use your life up in that pursuit? Next.
You smell, and I don't understand how you don't know it. That bitter waft as you glide past me with your head held high. You talk as if you know everything, as if you know more than anyone else in the room. But you fucking stink. You never listen. Who are you? Who do you think you are?
My instinct is that just we're more likely to say nice things about people, so we don't feel like kept up emotion. But when you give us the opportunity to just go be negative, it's like, whoa, okay, I can really say things now.
Imagine saying the nice things that you would never say. And there's a lot of nice things I think I probably would say, but an awful lot of bad things I would never say. Like, they come to mind a lot easier, you know.
The positive things that you can't say makes you very vulnerable. It opens you way out. I think that's what it is. It's like going, I can't say this because I'm embarrassed or I'm shy or I fear rejection or whatever those things are. So I think that's in there as well. We don't want to.
So it's just interesting what you have to push through when you are writing, and how brave you have to be even when it's fiction is interesting, or how brave you dare to be, and if you can't, then taking a chance to talk about that and why, and like having a conversation like this automatically makes me feel more comfortable about what I'm about to share. Your talent and the light you bring into a room is electrifying. When you are speaking, I can't take my eyes off you. It feels as if I'm looking directly into your soul. You make the best chocolate chip cookies I have ever eaten in my life. I can't tell you this because too many other people could get hurt. You make me feel safe enough to express the parts of myself I hate the most.
Oh, God. That was awesome. That was amazing.
It's like an in-joke. It's like a little thing that you and this imaginary other person have a relationship over the time that you made the cookies and you thought they were amazing, or the Coke. There's a thing that happens and nobody else understands what that moment is from the inside. Because they don't understand it, it makes those two people really close, rather than it just being a general sort of, you're really lovely and I like you, and those specific things are what actually really, that go unexplained, are really interesting, aren't they?
It tells you something about the nature of that person and something, and whether that's something that we put on it, our own relationship to Diet Coke and chocolate chip cookies, but we immediately kind of hook onto that as something that we can relate to in some way.
Your face makes me want to cry. You don't like your hands, but they look like they've been carved from obsidian by a master craftsman. I can't breathe around you. Do you know God? Because I can see that essence in your eyes. You make me feel like I can say anything.
It's interesting because it's like you can't breathe, but this person makes you feel like you could say anything, but you need to be able to breathe to say anything. And so it's like this, there's a real tension between what they're making you actually feel.
There's some of them that could be easily turned into a negative one. Mm-hmm. Like your face makes me want to cry. or I can't breathe when I'm next to you. Mm-hmm. Or seeing you makes me want to say, you make me feel like I can say anything to you. Yeah. Even those ones.
What we're going to do is remember your 8 wall interactions and your 0 to 9s. And after lunch, we're just going to spend a little bit of time working with these movements, some of this text, and just seeing how we can marry them together, if that's possible, what the benefit of movement is with this kind of fragmented text. Maggie and Felipe have been asked to bring their sequence away from the wall. So they've got their numbers on the body and they had their fixed point on the wall. And what they've done is they're pulling away from the wall, and we're going to see what happens when we start to layer some text on top of that. You've got your text. You don't need to know the whole thing off by heart. Let's just see if you can, even if it's just a few lines from the text that get repeated, that's absolutely fine. We're going to put you in the space and we're going to start, both of you, moving. And then when you're ready, Maggie, if you can start with your speech, you can just say one of your lines. And you're both moving. Felipe, you'll find a line as well. Then Maggie, you'll find another line. Yeah? So it's going to be call and response in a sense.
You make the best chocolate chip cookies I have ever had in my whole life. But I can't tell you that because too many other people could get her.
I can't stand the way you stand. You know, it's just that arrogance. You know, confidence without just cause. Oh, man.
Your talent and your light when you walk into a room, it's electrifying.
No, it takes energy to be a bad person. And how dare you spend your life in that pursuit?
You make me feel safe enough to express the things about myself I hate most.
Sorry. Even the way you look at me just makes me feel like nothing. Like a piece of chewing gum just stuck to the bottom of your big ass ugly size 9s.
When you speak, it's as if I can see into your soul.
It takes energy to be a bad person. And how dare you waste your life on that pursuit?
So we're going to make the space between these two performers smaller now. And I'm going to ask that Felipe, could both of you be moving? And Felipe, could you just be talking? So just you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Still moving.
Don't worry, it's still moving.
Yeah.
Don't worry if you forget a line or if that doesn't matter.
Cool.
Silence is okay too.
Okay. God, I hate the way you stand. Even just looking at you makes me so angry. You know, it takes energy to be a bad person. And how dare you use up your life in that pursuit? Even the way you look at me just makes me feel like nothing. You know, like a piece of chewing gum stuck on the end of your shoe, your big, ugly size 9s. So arrogant. You know what arrogance is? It's like confidence without just cause. Why don't you just look in the mirror and ask yourself, is this who I want to be? Because I promise you it takes energy to be a bad person.
The way that you were moving before had, it was still slightly staccato, like between movements, but even more so when Felipe was the only one speaking. So like definitely we saw that knee being like accentuated a lot, even in your expression. It felt like whoever you were in that situation was definitely hearing what Felipe was saying.
So one speaking, the other moving. And Maggie, do you want to be more upstage?
Your talent and your light when you enter a room, it's electrifying. When you speak, it's like I can see into your soul. You make the best chocolate chip cookies I have ever eaten in my entire life. But I can't tell you this because too many other people might get hurt. You make me feel safe enough to express the parts of me that I hate the most.
So we're making it smaller. So you've got to still get through the task, but at the same time, less moves that you can do in a drama studio and more moves that you might do while you're waiting for a bus.
Okay, got you.
Your talent and your light. When you enter a room, it's electrifying. When you speak, it's like I can see into your soul. You make the best chocolate chip cookies I've ever eaten in my life. But I can't tell you that because too many other people might get hurt. You make me feel safe enough to express the parts of me that I hate the most.
On the bench, just because the bench is here.
Yeah.
If there's a bus stop, if Felipe, you're just waiting for the bus.
Yeah.
Which would be coming from that way.
Yeah.
And if Maggie, you're next to him, then you could be on the bench if that makes it easier. But you're going to do your text and movement, but looking at him.
Your talent and your light, when you enter a room, it's electrifying. When you speak, it's as if I can see into your soul. You make the best chocolate chip cookies I've ever had in my entire life. But I can't tell you that because too many other people might get hurt. You make me feel safe enough to express the parts of me that I hate most.
So we've looked at speech and movement and experimented with two people speaking and moving, with two people moving and one person speaking, with one person speaking and the other person moving, with one person speaking and that same person moving. And it's really good to interrogate, you know, where does the movement add benefit? Where does the movement complement the text? Where does the text complement the movement? And when is it too much? When do you need to strip back? So I've given the group a stimulus to have a look at, and just going to give them a minute or so to really look at it and think about what their response is, what does it conjure up for them. And then we'll have a quick discussion about those responses to then move into, right, where do we want to go? What do we want to use to start delving in and responding to this stimulus?
There's his face, there's his baseball cap, that's his arm. He's got like a sort of Adidas top on there, and he's like going that way.
I see it now, you've pointed it out.
Yeah. Because I thought the body was up here, like somewhere.
That looks like a stick magnet up, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So all this looks like tree or roots or whatever, but yeah, there was something up here that he's coming away from. This is like an Adidas hoodie, a cap, and his face. And then this is like some sort of fence. He's going towards something or a person like there.
Look how specific.
Get it? It's a mermaid. The logic of my brain is telling me that it's a speedy close-up. That looks like a sort of a pause in playing like computer-generated imagery back. There's not enough detail there to justify that it is real.
Where does it take you to?
My head went to, these are roots. My response was a family tree. I have a mango tree that was planted at the same time I was born. So I have a tree that's following me in my life, or I'm following it. And that came to my head as well. So I guess that's quite a personal thing, but that's what came to my head.
Just taking the image and being inspired by it, not trying to decipher what the picture is of.
I think the thing that we all think is it's obviously unclear. It's something that's taken its speed, or that we haven't had a clear glimpse of.
It's so, yeah, like it just disappears into nothingness.
Blackness.
Yeah.
So we've got a sense of not knowing what you're even looking at. A sense of that someone said, did you just see that? Like there's movement, speed, glimpse. What is it? What has happened? Where do we now take these responses and go next? What do we do?
Just physically what we were doing is interesting. We were all looking at this thing, and there might be a sequence where it's about trying to get a better angle or a view on something. So you've got 4 or 5 people. Just literally what we were doing, slightly adjusting their angle on the monitor or trying to see from further away, trying to get up close.
And just because we've all mentioned speed is distance over time. So I think I'd like to probably play some games with distance and time, because that is speed, I think.
The task possibly starting with looking at a fixed point and adjusting where you are in the space. So there's something in there physically.
I've stuck on this idea of everyone seeing the same thing but describing it different ways. And I think that speaks to something really quite nice about individuality, right? You see everyone has a different response.
So we're going to embark on this text generating task by taking the space and trying to describe something without saying keywords associated with that thing.
We came up with a writing task, and it's just worth saying that if you're the person leading this task or you've come up with it, it's just worth thinking about how much you give away when you're explaining that task or you want a group to do that task. Is it worth holding some stuff back? Because it's useful starting from a very simple starting point to get the most out of your group and then layering on those instructions rather than the other way around, starting with something really complex and convoluted. No one really knows what they're doing, what's expected of them, and then taken away. Just think about that.
One of the questions when we started to embark on this text generating task was, is this related to the visual stimulus? And no is the answer. It's related to the responses to the visual stimulus. So they've been asked to choose one thing, could be anything, and then describe it. And they've been given a couple of minutes to write that down. So what we're going to do now is we're going to swap text, read the descriptions and circle the words that are really key to describing that thing. And those words will not be allowed to be used. Everyone's got one thing to describe and numerous different words that they are not allowed to use in the describing of that thing. The people that don't know what that thing is are allowed to call it as soon as they figure out what it might be.
Okay, so this is an item that a person would wear at the extremities that exist at the end of their legs.
Socks.
And they typically wear them outside. Shoes, yes.
I would say prosthetics.
So this is a type of living thing that a lot of people enjoy to keep in their homes.
Dogs.
Cats.
Cats. The other one.
This is the king of the jungle.
Tiger.
Lion. Yep.
He was right.
Oh, lion.
Ah.
This is something you wear, and you wouldn't wear it when it's too cold. You wouldn't wear it when it's too cold, and you wouldn't wear it when it's too warm either.
Cardigan.
There's a longer version of it that you would wear to something more formal. And this is the more informal version of the same item.
Really specific.
It is on the top half of your body.
Jacket.
It usually goes underneath things like jackets.
Waistcoat. What?
So it's a shirt. It's a long sleeve shirt.
The other one,
Short sleeve shirt.
yeah, but it's like an American version of that.
A t-shirt?
Yes,
Oh, okay.
that's it.
Yeah, cool.
Most people have 10 of these.
Fingers,
Some people like to paint them.
nails.
For me, these are essential at every time of year because I always feel cold.
Gloves.
And I wear them in my house all the time, even if
Slippers.
it's 30 degrees outside. A lot of people get these quite sweaty.
Socks.
Yeah.
This is a food from the country that gave us spaghetti. Yes.
While they were all describing their separate words or things, I was wondering what happens if we put these pieces of text together? Does it work? Does it make it really confusing? Does it make it funny? Does it make it interesting? Is there anything there? I didn't know, but I thought I would just jot down as people were talking different lines that they said on a piece of paper with gaps in between, and then I filled the gaps with other people's descriptions just to see where it went. It makes no sense, but maybe there's something there. From the task that the group's created, now it's about, are there any other tasks that we can go on to do? So, for example, one idea was to, as the group, choose a word that kept coming up as their first response to the stimulus. For example, speed. Get a big piece of paper, write the word speed in the middle, and then everyone writes down all the words associated to that word. And then the task to describe speed without using any of those words, and what are you left with? What's important to remember is that when you're coming up with a text task or a text generating task, it's not about just recreating this task or a different generating text task that we've given you. It's about thinking about how does it relate to whatever it is that you're working with. So if you're using an idea of writing lists of things, then how does this relate back to your stimulus, back to your response to the stimulus? A task that generates text could be anything. It's up to you to make the building blocks and make the rules. So we're doing a physical task that we've come up with about perspective and seeing things from different perspectives, or trying to get a clearer view. So they've got 5 different moves that they need to make, looking at the one focal point. Okay, all of you together in the space. Focal point, you were saying, computer? I mean, we could just...
Yeah.
Angle 3. Angle 4. What happens if you've each got something in your hand? What happens if you've each got a phone or something in your hand, so you're not actually looking at the same thing anymore? And as if by magic, it happens. Just becomes something totally different. Totally different. Can we have you all looking at Maggie's phone? It's fascinating because you've got this sequence. It's like, it's not, when you were all on your phone, it was like some of you were taking photos of yourselves and having selfie moments. Some of you were trying to see something else. And as soon as it became about this one phone, it was like at one point you were taking a photo of the group, and at other points you were trying to photograph something else, and everybody was kind of watching what was happening there. So some of the text that we have come up with, I'm wondering whether we want to take it to the next level in the next 5 minutes, so we can speed through it. But take that idea of speed, all the words that you can't say to describe what speed is, and then seeing if we can describe speed without using any of those words, and let's see where the movement fits in with this.
Measurement of physicality that you could record on a meter, on a thing you can sit in and go anywhere in different ways. And those ways could be exhilarating or frustrating, could induce anxiety or sickness or excitement. You could go down or up differently. And not just those ways. Ways you can do physical things quickly, or not quickly, or differently. Animals do it, things do it, we do it, you do it. You're doing it now.
You've got really good at describing speed. You found the word quick.
Yes.
Can you put some headphones or earphones, like just little earphones? Have you got any earphones with you? Brilliant. And you can have your phone. It was like she was trying to work out how she was going to leave a message for someone, or she was trying to explain something to somebody. And I wondered what it would be if she wasn't aware you were listening.
It's a way of measuring on a meter physical going or not going. A way of doing things quickly or not quickly. And we all do it in different ways at different times. And it's not just something that you do externally, you can do it internally.
Oh, you all know your spaces now and where you're going. Can I see you moving a bit quicker? Quicker through the space, and you can adjust, Maggie.
I am actively about the thing now. Not physically, but mentally, in my mind. And this thing always is actively. You can measure how actively with a meter in a thing you do this inside of or on. Animals have reputations around how they do this. My breath is affected by my physicalizing this thing.
And you want to explain it to Philippe, who's next to you, but all words are vetoed. But you still need to make your body shapes.
Yeah.
You can do it from sitting down, that's fine. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You've still got your body shapes, but you're sitting down. And Maggie, you're trying to explain speed, but all words are vetoed. And now the thing that's stopping you is that he's just looking, his focus is elsewhere. That moment at the end when your arm went round Maggie's shoulders it was like, I just wasn't expecting that. It wasn't allowed in the form that you'd already created. That wasn't allowed. And then all of a sudden it was like, but look over there. And Maggie was allowed into your picture all of a sudden. Once you've generated some text and you've generated some movement, then it's about exploring the variables between them. Today we've looked at having text and movement happen at the same time, having movement happen on stage while text is happening off stage, having text happening on stage while movement is happening in the body but not in the space. Then check your variables, check your presumptions about what you've created. We created a group piece of viewpoints, but then what happens if you turn that into two people on stage? What happens if one of those people is speaking and the other person is moving? What happens if you take the text completely away and you take the ability to move away, but you've got resonations of that movement happening within, but it becomes so small it's a secret. Check what your presumptions are about what you've created and see what different variables you can play with. Remember, our first stimulus that we looked at, there was quite a lot of confusion about it. It was fleeting what they were seeing. They were trying to figure out what it was, and it was confusing to look at, confusing to understand. And what the one word that they leapt on was the word of speed. And so that was our word that we got from our stimulus. Your word might be anything. Your task might be anything related to the responses to the stimulus. And whatever your word is that you're using, if you were to use this task again, that would really change the outcome of how that person might be describing.